The gentlelady from Arizona is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the testifiers today. Very interesting subject and something that kind of spurs the imagination about science fiction shows and those type of things. I do have a question on what countries are the major players in AI and where does the U.S. rank in competition with them? And that's to any panelist or all panelists.
Today I think that the U.S. Actually ranks possibly top of the list. I think that there are lots of other countries that are investing very heavily. China's investing heavily. Lots of countries in Europe are investing heavily. DeepMind is a subsidiary of a U.S. company, but located in London. And I think that it's very clear that AI is going to be something with global impacts. And I think the more that we can understand what's happening everywhere and figure out how we can coordinate on safety and ethics in particular, the better it's going to go.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think wherever there's large amounts of computing, large amounts of data, and a strong desire to innovate and continue to develop again in this sort of fourth industrial revolution that we're moving on, then it drives toward certainly China and then our allies and colleagues in Western Europe and developed worlds. Thank you.
And did you want to answer?
Sorry. If I could just add that the most important thing to continue to lead in the field is really about the talent. And right now we're doing a great job of bringing all the talent in. At OpenAI we have a very wide mix of national backgrounds and origins. I think as long as we can keep that up, that we'll be in very good shape.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I have one more question, and that is what steps, I think this has been asked in different ways before, but what steps are we guarding against espionage from, let's say, you said China is involved in this, and that's basically my question. Espionage, hacking, those type of things. What guidelines are currently taking place, and who's preventing this? Is it the private companies themselves? Is government involved? Thank you.
So one thing that's very atypical about this field is because it really grew out of an academic, a few very small number of academic labs, that the overarching ethos in the field is actually to publish. And so all of the core research and development is actually being shared pretty widely. And so I think that as we're starting to build these more powerful systems, and this is one of the parts of our charter, that we need to start thinking about safety and keeping think about things that should not be shared. And so I think that this is a new muscle that's being built. It's right now kind of up to each company, and I think that that's something that we're all starting to develop. But I think having a dialogue around what's okay to share and what things are kind of too powerful and should be kept private, that's just the dialogue that's starting now.
And certainly IP, intellectual property protection, is a critical issue. I think of one former director of the National Security Agency mentioned that at the time, it was unprecedented theft of U.S. intellectual property at that time, just because of it's the blessing and curse of the internet. The blessing is it's open, and the curse is it's open. And so AI is going to, I think, be in that category in terms of what's being done in terms of cybersecurity. It is something our experts pointed out and said it is an issue. As this committee well knows, it's easier said than done. And who has jurisdictions in the U.S. federalist system about, particularly the private company and protection of that, the role of the federal government versus the company itself, in an era where, as I think Mr. Brockman's pointed out, it's sort of the big data era where data are the new oil. Yet we want to be open at the same time so that we can innovate. So managing that dialectical tension is going to be a critical issue, and there's no easy answer.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I yield back.